Well, hello there, my fellow rushers. How are you doing today? King Rexy here, and today we're finally gonna be making a review on the new update for Kingdom Rush Alliance, also known as the Undying Fury. Now, this review was supposed to be released a while ago, shortly after the release of the update, but due to university holding me back, I really didn't have a lot of time to record, so yeah, it's a bit late, but you know, it's better to be late than sorry, so I decided to post this anyway. And for that special occasion, we'll be assisted by Vex the Cleanser, who is a pretty big fan of mine, so he'll be talking over some of the points for this review. So yeah, that'll be nice. And at the end of this, I'm gonna give you my honest opinion and conclusion of whether or not this update is helping out Alliance to push it in the right direction, or if it's a downgrade compared to the campaign, of course. So, without any further ado, let's begin. Okay, so the animations. Honestly, there's not much to say here. Like, when it comes down to the animations, Ironhide always steps up their game with every update. I don't know how they keep on doing it, like, eventually there has to be a cap. Like, a limit to how godly you can make your animations, but goddamn, I love playing these levels. Like, the visuals, the aesthetics, the looks of the hero in the tower, they all look wholesome. And yeah, honestly, animation style, pretty spot on. The only thing I don't like about this campaign though is the music. I feel like the battle music is a bit too goofy in a way. I don't know, it's just at some point during the track I'm like, that doesn't really feel like a you know, a scary level. It feels more like a goofy one. I don't know. The music just was a bit off-putting to me, but overall I think the music is decent. It's not great, but you know, it's not terrible or anything. It's just not my style per se. So yeah, when it comes down to animations and art style, pretty solid, especially the comics. The comics look incredible. I love watching them. So yeah, let's let Vex continue with our next point.
For the first part of the story, it was great. It left a lot of questions to be answered. But in the second part, you have Erevan being revealed as a villain, which is weird because they really never explain how he became a villain. Like, they didn't explain what happened, or what made him turn to the side of evil, which is a shame. But the thing that mainly I'm happy about in the second part of the story is Erevan and Vesper. We are now actually learning that Vesper was an apprentice of Eridan, which is incredible. I love how they connect characters like that. And Vesnan in the back, scheming, I love it. But personally, the story could have been very good, but I personally think they just completely ruined it in the second part, which really disappoints me.
Alright, now we need to talk about the new tower. The new tower is quite an interesting one. Now, I'm not gonna go in detail as to how effective it is or what it does, because I'm planning on making separate reviews on both the new heroes and this tower, but let's just give you a quick summary. It's a very long-ranged archer that has slow attack speed and it lacks AoE. In other words, it's a really good single-target damaging tower. And for Alliance, that's not bad at all, because even though it's not as slow-paced as Vengeance, it still has its moments where the waves are just a bit on the slow side. But it's pretty solid overall. It deals pretty high amount of damage, but the tier 4 is where it really shines. It gets significant range increase, and on top of that, its secondary ability is probably one of the most busted things in the game, because for every kill this tower gets with its basic attack, it gains permanent increase on its damage from 1 to 2. So yeah, you can just get a permanent damage increase. Imagine how OP that will be on a tower. Like, just infinitely scaling damage. You can get some crazy numbers like this. Like, look at that. How are you supposed to counter something that strong? Well, I mean, it is strong, but keep in mind, the tower has its weaknesses. It doesn't have any AoE, nor does it deal any other damage other than physical. So, in this case, heavily armored enemies or enemies that come in groups are gonna be difficult for this tower to handle. So you need to combine it with other towers. Which also begs the problem of how many enemies can you kill with this tower in order for it to achieve OP status? Well, a lot. You're gonna need a lot of kills for that. The problem is, you're not gonna be spamming that tower, unless you're doing a challenge, of course. But if you're trying to incorporate it on a normal strategy where you're gonna be using like mages and artillery, it's gonna be difficult for the tower to get the last hits. But one of its best features is by far this, being able to switch targetings. Ironhide finally figured out that, hey, we should give towers different targeting options. I mean, that's awesome, not gonna lie. I love it. But the first ability is a bit underwhelming. The Twilight Elves, they're fine, but I feel like there should have been a little bit more tanky. Maybe if their HP at tier 3 was like 100 or 120, they would have been a little bit better. But they do have like 30% chance to dodge every melee attack, so I guess there's that. So the tower isn't bad, but I feel like a little bit more work could have been put into it. Just a tiny bit.
So for the enemies, I'm going to go through each and every one of them and give my opinion on how good designed they are. First of them we have the Revenant Ranger. Now the Revenant Ranger is a pretty well designed enemy, and when he dies he spawns a Spectre. Moving on, we have Spectres. They can interact with towers and other elements. Now, their design is pretty bland in my opinion. They could have done much better. Moving on to the next enemy, the Dusk Cryptid, who is flying and leaves a cloud of pollen that makes enemies invulnerable to damage. The design is very good, but it doesn't feel like it fits in this campaign at all. Moving on, we have the Bane Wolf. The Bane Wolves move faster each time they receive damage. Now these enemies are pretty well designed, just they don't really fit in this campaign. Moving on to Deathwoods. Deathwoods are a mini-boss, and they throw a cursed acorn that deals damage in an area. Now, these are spawned by specters who interact with the Weirdwoods. Their design is pretty good. Now we have the animated armor. When it's defeated, it can be reanimated by a specter, meaning that it can basically be revived. But its design is very solid in my opinion. A very, very good design for this enemy. Moving on, we have the Revenant Soulcaller, which disables towers and summons specters. Now, this enemy is pretty well designed as well. I like its design. I think personally it's my favorite designed enemy. Now we have the Revenant Harvester. Now, this enemy turns nearby specters into Revenant Harvesters, which is a very interesting gimmick, but their design is very good as well. And we have the final boss, Navira, who blocks towers with fireballs and turns into an unblockable tornado, which his design is also very, very good. So, for the level design, I'm going to give my opinions on how well designed they are and how good the gimmicks of the levels are. Now, first level we have is Misty Ruins. Now, Misty Ruins, the gimmicks of this level are the branching pathways and the fact that the Weirdwoods get corrupted thanks to the specters. Now, this level personally is my least favorite level in this campaign because of many reasons. Because most of these things have been done before. The branching pathways and the Weirdwood gimmick is alright. Personally, this is not my favorite level. Moving on to level 18, or also known as Deep Leaf Outpost. This is my favorite level out of the new campaign. This level really had some great gimmicks, like the elves finally being able to respawn, not needing to be bought again, which is a great addition. Thank you, Ironhide. But as well with Eridan, just the shame is that he isn't a movable hero, and he just kind of lays back, insta-kills enemies, and attacks them using his bow. But still, very good level. Moving on to stage 19, the Temple of the Fallen. Now, this level is personally my second favorite out of all of them. Now, this level really is, how do I put it? Different from the rest, in the sense that there isn't really any gimmicks. I mean, the only thing you can even call a gimmick in this level is the enemies that come out of the mausoleum, but really there are no gimmicks to this level. There isn't anything to make it interesting. I mean, the only thing that really makes it interesting is Navira's stunning towers, which propels it up a little bit higher than the Weirdwood level in my opinion. But still really fun and enjoyable level for me.
So yeah, now let's finish it off with the heroes. The heroes are, just really good. Now let's start off with the big boy, Bonehart. Honestly, he is pretty OP, as he should be. I mean, come on, he's the dragon, and he's supposed to be one of the most OP dragons in the whole franchise. But I would say his alliance counterpart is just a slightly bit more underwhelming than his original one in Frontiers. And the only reason being, the game. Because in Frontiers, enemies come in bigger hordes and are more clumped, so you can utilize your Plague a little bit more effectively than here. But that doesn't mean Bonehart is underperforming, no, he's really good. All of his abilities are pretty nice. I don't know about the ultimate though. I feel like it's a bit iffy to have a unit to have a flying hero that can just spawn reinforcements like that. But honestly, they're not too bad. Like, the Bone Drakes are pretty solid, 180 HP with 21 to 31 physical damage on a pretty good attack speed. They're solid, and considering the fact that Alliance has kind of underwhelming barracks, these reinforcements are pretty solid. The only ability that I really dislike though is Spreading Burst, which is his fourth ability, where he just makes this loud ass noise, shoots out a bunch of plague balls, and just they explode, they deal a little bit of true damage, and they apply like plague, but they're all random. I don't know, like half of his shots usually miss, which is a bit hilarious to think about, but that doesn't mean he's a weak hero, no. I think it's pretty solid. A bit on the OP side, and to be honest, for all the Cosmere lovers out there, I think Bonehart is the new sexy. Like, he's basically like him, but better, because he deals true damage, and he can create chain reactions with his Plague. So yeah, Bonehart is a 10 out of 10. Trei, on the other hand, I don't know. I'm not sure about her though. Like, something about her looks just remind me of Lulu from League of Legends. If you've played this game before, you probably know what I'm talking about. If not, then it's probably for the better. Do not play it, you're gonna get addicted, and you're gonna have severe anger issues later down the line. definitely not talking from experience though. But anywho's, she is pretty interesting for the most part. I'd say she's kind of a combination of Kata and a little bit of Alok, mostly because of her ultimate, but overall she's fine. She has really good utility, incredible stalling capabilities, but she kinda lacks in base stats, which is kind of understandable. The only thing I don't get about her is the basic attack, since she shoots multiple bolts, so that begs the question. Does each bolt deal half of the damage that is shown, or does each bolt deal that amount of damage individually? I assume it's kind of like the mage towers from Origins, where half of the damage is dealt from one bolt and the other half is dealt from the second one. But then again, she cannot target multiple enemies with her basic attacks, so I don't know about that. But she's still pretty solid. The Vegify ability, which is the first one, is a very nice polymorph. Unlike other polymorphs though, you can't just click on the pumpkin to make it explode, you have to actually manually kill it. But you do have 8 seconds, so that's plenty of time. Her second ability is also pretty good, because it allows her to, you know, disengage when she gets low, and if they kill the decoy, the enemies get stunned for a few seconds. The cats are kind of underwhelming, not gonna lie. Like 80 HP, like come on now, that's pretty low. But on the other hand, they're a nice little couple seconds of stalling power, so I'd say it's fine. Her last normal ability is pretty solid. It deals a decent amount of magic damage and it slows down enemies for 8 seconds. And it doesn't have that long of a cooldown either, so it's a really nice AoE spell. But her ultimate is, I'd say, a bit on the OP side. You can teleport up to 10 enemies very far away, and on top of that you also stun them for 5 seconds. I mean, in the description it says asleep, but it's basically a stun, so... Yeah, her ultimate is a tad bit too OP, but then again, some of her abilities do feel a bit lacking, so I guess she's somewhat balanced, but then again, I'll be making individual reviews on these two later on. For now, I would say Trei is pretty well made. Definitely more balanced than Bonehart. And yeah, that's pretty much all we have to say about the update. Now, in conclusion, does it make Alliance better? Does it push it in the right direction? I would say the answer to that is yes, definitely. Sure, could they have done more to improve the game's balancing, the wave compositions? Yes, most definitely. However, it's a step in the right direction, and that's a good thing, because Alliance, it left me with a lot of mixed feelings. When I first played it, back in the day, I thought the game was awesome. But the more I started playing into it, the more I started noticing the flaws. And don't get me wrong, the game still has quite a few flaws here and there, but this update definitely patched quite a few of them. My favorite one being the rework of Favorite Customer. Instead of it being RNG dependent on every single ability, now only the last tier of the ability of a tower gets reduced by 50%. Which does make some abilities a little bit OP, not gonna lie. Like for example, let's say Lead by Example, that's a pretty OP ability now. And what was it called? Mutation Hex, I believe, from the Channeler. You know, it's abilities that basically only have one upgrade point are gonna be pretty busted with that skill. But honestly, I would take that any day over the previous one, so that's a very positive change. Most of the buffs were pretty nice, especially the Taurus buffs. I really like the Brewmaster one. I like how they buffed Elven Stargazer, because a lot of people were complaining about this tower underperforming and stuff. The Tri-Cannon bug fix and the attempt of making it somewhat of a decent artillery. Like, there's so many good things about this update. Again, it's not perfect, but it's a good one. Definitely approved from me. So yeah, pretty solid updates, and that's all we have to say for now. And with that out of the way, I think that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I appreciate you for sticking around to the end. Subscribe if you want to see more of this content in the future, and while you're at it, drop a like on the video. It means a lot to me. And I will see you in the next video. Until it comes, that was King Rexy, over and out.